Is it already nitpicking season, Birm?
Yes.
Welcome to Snap Judgments. Ohio State is a 37-9 winner over the Ohio Bobcats. That is the end of the non-conference tune-up portion of the schedule, and there were certainly some periods of the game tonight where the engine needed a little bit of work for the Buckeyes.
And it's just one of those weird games. The Buckeyes at half had given up 23 yards. They had racked up over 300 and were up 13-3. And you're like, yeah, that's just weird. And then you come out and you give up a 75-yard touchdown on the third play of the half for Ohio, one that should have been a stop at the 40-yard line, and Lorenzo Styles, for whatever reason, just wants to. Remember, you know what it reminded me of? Do you remember the play a year ago at Michigan State where Jordan Hancock was in a similar position, in a chase position, and punched the ball out at the 8?
Yeah.
It seemed like Lorenzo Styles was just trying to make a play, but at some point you just got to bring the guy down. Ohio probably doesn't score a touchdown in this game if Lorenzo Styles just tackles him at the 35-yard line like he should have, but. It's weird because Ohio State should have probably won this game like 56-3. But on the other side of it, when you listen to Ryan Day in the postgame press conference, I think I'm not saying he's happy about the way that the Buckeyes were sloppy in the red zone, penalties, turnovers, etc. But I think for a team that is on the verge of being told how great they are, I think this is actually maybe a positive heading into a 2-week stretch where you now have a ton of things that you can work on and feel like, hey, we can still get a lot better.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a reality check, not one where you still had to sweat out the final result in the fourth quarter.
They still average like 10 yards a play.
Yeah, so I don't want to go overboard with the critiques. But it's okay to be critical of this performance because that first half is definitely not up to Ohio State standard. 13-3 against the Bobcats, who, tough team, MAC champions, all those things that we talked about.
Yeah.
And Ohio State wound up, the spread dropped down to 28. They won by 28. They did handle their business in that regard. And to your point, when you look at what Ryan Day can get out of this starting tomorrow in the champions meeting or when they get back to the off-week practices, I think they're going to have Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and then maybe some of the weekend off to get to rest and recover and get geared up for what is going to be a bit of a gauntlet with 3 road games in 4 weeks and 1 flying across the country, the first one to Washington. But it'll obviously be about the passing attack, figuring out the personnel situation there. It clearly looks like Bo Jackson needs to be a prominent piece of this offense, but when you look at it overall, the big picture, and on the one hand, you feel like guilty complaining about a comfortable win when it's not about style points. And on the other hand, if you're just looking forward to what is going to happen at Washington in 2 weeks or what this team needs to improve, and Ryan Day will definitely be able to coach this team hard and have their attention because both sides of the football will have parts of this that they're unhappy about. Yeah,
and some of that is probably a nitpick on the coaching side. Again, you look at Ohio, and they have a 75-yard or however long that touchdown was. I think they ended up with 185 total yards, but most, you had one play, and then you had a fourth quarter drive where the game was out of hand and over, and Ohio State had all the backups in. But for an offense that prides itself on clean play and executing, they did not do that tonight, period. The big hitters came later in the day with the 2 49-yard touchdown passes from Julian Sayin to Jeremiah Smith. Carnell Tate, you had a 60-yard run by Bo Jackson for the second straight week. He busts one like that. So there's a lot to like, but then you see just some 2 interceptions. I'm not sure.
Statistically, it says 2 interceptions.
Statistically, they're both on Julian Sayin. The first one, he didn't see he says he saw the spy in the middle of the field and just thought he could get it over the guy's head. Did not. It got tipped multiple times. It ends up in the defense's hands right before the half, which allows Ohio to score their first points, the field goal. And the second one is just on the guard, Tiger Shabola, who did not block anybody and turned him right basically into Julian Sayin. But Ryan Day's his point is, Julian, just take a sack. It's okay to just take the sack there. And those are the little things, the lessons. One of the things that I really appreciated Ryan Day saying in the post-game press conference was that Julian saying like these will turn into like memories and not lessons in the future. So like okay, this is what happened there. I can just do this. So overall, like you can look at this game and feel like Ohio State left a lot of points on the field, which they certainly did, despite scoring 37 points. And then you ask yourself defensively, did they do what they wanted? I thought they played pretty well defensively. Caden Curry, an unbelievable game for him.
Yeah.
He is an absolute menace. I grabbed him walking off the field, and I was like, dude, you're an absolute nuisance. He's all over the field. And nice day for Kenyatta Jackson. I thought that, he looked good. He did have, I'm not sure if you noticed this, was this before the game that he had a giant brace on his knee? Okay, so that's newish for Kenyatta, so that's something to pay attention to. I did see Lorenzo Styles walking off the field as I was setting up for snap judgments, and he said, don't roast me too bad. And then he said, I'm fine.
And talk to Sonny Styles. You'll see that on the notebook. Lorenzo also walked by as well, just had a big ice bag on the shoulder. The suggestion from those two was that if need be, he could have gone back in the game, so it looks like he's avoided the serious thing. And it's not a roast. I think Lorenzo had played very well through the first two games. But the thing that I talked about throughout camp, when I was very high, and I'm not jumping off of the Lorenzo Styles Jr. bandwagon here because of one big play that he gives up. That's going to happen from time to time to defensive backs. You don't want to see it again. You can't continue to have those mistakes. But the thing that I talked about for him was like when you looked at the numbers and there were a fair amount of completions that were given up, but they weren't over the head. They weren't going for explosive gains and they weren't going for touchdowns. So that was out of character for him. The coverage, I didn't think there was anything wrong with it. Sometimes you're going to get balls completed, but as you said right off the start of snap judgments, if that happens, put him on the ground immediately. Because if he's tackled at the 40, Ohio's having a very difficult time stringing together drives against the Buckeyes. Like that's, at best, you're thinking a field goal then if they're down in the 40. You're not thinking that you're going to give up a touchdown as well as Matt Patricia's defense has been playing through 2+ games here. But that's the part that has to be improved. You mentioned Tegra Shabola. He also had the 2 penalties in the first half. And I thought when he came out and Ethan Onyanwa came in, I thought the offense looked pretty good up front. There's some rushing lanes that were there. The protection remained good. I'm curious why this has happened twice. It happened against Texas. They put Tegra Shabola back in. They did that tonight for the entirety of the second half. And yes, there were some big hits, but you mentioned the turnover and the missed block there. I feel like when we're talking about the personnel and figuring out the run game opportunities, it's not just Bo Jackson is really good.
Yeah.
I am starting to feel like maybe Ethan Onyanwa needs an extended look at right guard. And I know Tegra's played a ton of football. He's given a lot to this program. He's a national champion. Last year when there were the ups and downs, it was with the injury. I don't know when you're going on the road against Washington if that's how long that leash can be.
Yeah, tonight just was not a great day for Tegra. It wasn't a great day for a couple of the offensive linemen. Luke Montgomery had a few plays where you're like, that's not what it normally looks like. And this was an atmosphere that was sort of, it was like nice, you know what I mean? Like this crowd didn't hate Ohio. Like there was not a lot of juice in the second half, even after Ohio State put a couple long touchdowns on the board. I mean, at that point, everyone sort of knew the game was over. Most of the crowd started walking out of here with about 11 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. I just think it was a game that Ohio State was not focused, and that's worrisome. It's something that you want to correct, but you also don't want to hyper react to it. But for a team that played so well in the last 4 games of last year and came out of the gate playing extremely clean football the last 2 weeks, this was certainly a step in the wrong direction for Ohio State, but not something that is like something to worry about, in my opinion. But I'm sure that there's going to be people that feel differently than I do.
Yeah. I mean, also, I would say not unexpected to deal with some of that. I guess I'm having a hard time with the skepticism or the critiques of this performance because I know that it didn't look like Ohio State at its best. Like, that's just a fact. Yeah. What happened against Texas is still going to carry more weight for me. The passing performance and the accuracy, even with the turnovers, that ball is still on point from Julian Sayin almost every time it comes out of his hand. There were moments tonight where it wasn't. You have the interception that you mentioned when maybe it wasn't diagnosed right or the ball wasn't thrown in the spot that he wanted to. there were maybe one or two others where he missed opportunities. I think even when Ryan Day is going back to look at this, and he was focusing on the run game and as part of the conversation about not finishing drives in the red zone, the first drive, CJ Donaldson, like Brian Hartline and Ryan Day and Billy Fessler, they had schemed up things that were open.
Yeah.
Brandon Innes down here on the second quarter drive, that should have been a touchdown. Julian Sayin didn't pull the trigger on that one, and he missed CJ Donaldson on the throw on the opening drive. And again, like that's going to happen. I think we got in this rush maybe that Julian Sayin was unflappable against Texas, and he goes out and was nearly perfect against Grambling.
Ooh.
Whoa!
It got dark in here.
Lights out. They want us to stop talking about any of the nitpicking here.
They should have done that in the fourth quarter when they did all of the lights song.
Would have been helpful. Anyway, in the rush maybe to be like, oh, here we go. They're going to add to his plate. He's going to be the finished product. He's going to be the 5-star version. He's going to be in the Heisman Trophy race. It's like, well, actually, this is his third college football start. He is in his second year, the beginning of his second season at Ohio State. There are going to be things that he misses. There are going to be mistakes along the way, and that's fine. He's going to have to learn from them. You'd rather learn from them in games like this where you still win comfortably. So that part, it's not like, okay, let's panic and Julian Sayin's, as you said, taking the wrong step and everything's about to fall off a cliff. The growth process is not an exponential growth curve. Again, there's going to be peaks and valleys and steps forward and steps back. I think stepping into those throws the way he did to Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate should still maybe outweigh some of the negatives, and that's
the ball he threw to Max Clare for the touchdown was unbelievable. Like that showed a part of his game we haven't seen.
Getting outside the pocket,
getting outside of the pocket, eyes downfield, throwing an absolute dart to Clare as he cleared open. Like those are things that throw to Max Clare to me is the best throw of the night. Obviously, he put the ball on the money for Jeremiah and Carnell on the deep shots, but we saw him a week ago make that 1-inch throw to Carnell Tate on the first touchdown of the game for Ohio State, the leaping one.
The one at Kazmarek was a 1-inch throw.
Right.
Too, yeah.
So he had those plays, and then today, the first drive of the game, they basically tried the same ball to Carnell Tate. It was in both of his hands. The guy just made a good play and punched it out. Then you saw a little bit later in the evening a couple attempts to get the ball to Jeremiah Smith in the end zone that were not the cleanest throws. But again, as you're saying, like this is his third collegiate start. There's going to be times when the ball doesn't come off your hands right away. The other team is also playing football, and they're putting pressure on you, and they're making plays. I thought Ohio, I think they deserve a lot of credit. They executed their game plan. They wanted to quicken the game. That first half was over in an instant. Unfortunately, the second half wasn't. But it got over pretty quick because Ohio did what they wanted. Parker Navarro didn't play for majority of the first half, and when he came back in the second half, you could see that they had a little juice with him. That's a good team. They're going to be a MAC championship title contender. But as we talked about all week, as good as they are for their station in life, they don't belong on the field with Ohio State. And as I said earlier, there should have been a 56-3 type of game for the Buckeyes, and it wasn't because Ohio State shot itself in the foot repeatedly. Even Jeremiah Smith getting a personal foul, just stuff that is kind of out of character for this team from what we've seen in the first couple weeks.
Yeah, and it feels strange when there's either opportunities to throw to Jeremiah that are missed. He was back there as a punt returner. I think this is where I'm at, Birm. I think the punt return position at Ohio State is cursed.
I don't think they should even send anyone back there anymore because if you just let Caden Curry try to block every single one, he's going to block 40% of them.
Yeah. If even Jeremiah Smith is going back there and mishandling a punt, something is wrong.
This doesn't make any sense.
Something is broken. I don't know what they have to do during the improvement week to break that hex, but something must be done because I don't know what else to say about it.
It's baffling.
Brandon Innes did have a very good punt return, by the way, tonight.
And even Jeremiah Smith's punt return that he bobbled, he was this close to breaking it because he's just a freak. But you look at it and you're like, well, is it worth even sending anyone back at this point? I guess the goal is to catch it. But if people aren't just catching it, then why even have anyone back there? It is baffling. Did you get any insight, since I was not upstairs, did you get any insight into the Edric Houston, Taiwan Malone?
Did not come up. I think the defensive line...
Did Edric Houston play in the first quarter?
No, he did not.
So
Taiwan Malone...
That makes me wonder.
Tywan Malone took all of the snaps next to Caden McDonald in the first half. When Ohio State rotated and put in the backup line, they went with Will Smith Jr. and Edric Houston next to each other. In the third quarter, when they came back out and had the starters together,
was out there with
Edric was with Caden. So it didn't come up with Ryan Day. We did not have a chance to talk to Matt Patricia. I bet that's going to be brought up on Tuesday. The coordinators are going to be available with Ryan Day during the off-week press conference because I was confused by it. I watched distinctly. They came out to start the game, and Edric Houston took his sprint, started at the goal line, ran out, 40-yard dash down the field. He was 100% fine health-wise. Yeah. I guess maybe it could be related to the 2 penalties false start last week. I'm not sure. I definitely would like to know more.
There's no seemingly like animosity. I mean, pregame, him and Matt Patricia were embracing for, I think, 37 minutes pregame. Like, it was very loving. So I don't know. That's something that I'm interested in. But I think the most interesting thing I saw with the defense, like they had a 3-man defensive line out there at one point, and Caden Curry lined up over the center, and he just absolutely
and immediately won.
And he did it later in the game too. Ohio, when it was, I don't remember the score at that exact moment. I think it was when it was 16-9 still, or no, it was 23-9, and Ohio had the 4th and 5 over here at the 41-yard line, and they fumbled the snap, but it was because Caden Curry immediately was past the center. Caden Curry had his best game as an Ohio State Buckeye and was the clear-cut defensive MVP of the night for the Buckeyes.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. So I think you go into this week, and
his knees look thicker.
There's a girthiness to it.
Girthy knees
that you like to see. When Ryan Day, so he referenced, they're going to get on the film, and it's like, is it scheme, is it coaching, is it personnel? And I do think that there are several spots on this team where the personnel conversation can be had.
Well, that's the beauty of having the next 2 weeks to figure it out, right? I mean, because I want to push back just a touch in that in his second question he was asked was about the run game and about Bo Jackson. And he said, well, James had 9 yards of carry, CJ had 6, trying to basically say this wasn't because Bo had 12 yards of carry again. Like he said, if this was execution in the red zone, it would have felt a lot different in the run game.
But it also feels a lot different.
It does feel different.
When Bo Jackson, on that run, the 64-yard run, the first play, offensive play in the third quarter for Ohio State, how many times have we seen a similar run and you get to that first contact, it's like it was blocked up well, but that's a 6-yard gain, a 7-yard gain. Bo has 2 defenders coming at him. He sheds that. He's accelerating. He sheds the 2 tacklers and then pulls away with top end speed.
Cuts to the right, jumps behind Jeremiah Smith, who's out there blocking. Like the vision, Bo Jackson, there's something special there for sure.
I think C.J. Donaldson did a number of good things. Yeah. And
James Peoples
in the carries in the second half, I think James Peoples was also more effective than he has been in the first 2 weeks. I'm not saying that there's a deficiency with the top 2 that must be addressed by looking at another option. I am saying the upside of Bo Jackson, and if there was concern about what happened down here by the goal line last Saturday night, Ohio State put him in the first half. They gave him opportunities, and he maximized them. I think the potential for what Bo Jackson can become is too good to leave on the bench.
I'm not going to compare Bo Jackson to Jeremiah Smith, so bound to be clear. But what I'm going to say here is...
Jeremiah said Bo Jackson is that guy.
But what I'm saying is a year ago, when Jeremiah Smith came in, Ohio State had Emeka Ibuka and Carnell Tate and Brandon Ennis and all these other receivers, and everyone just understood that guy's different.
Yeah.
And it is not a knock on C.J. Donaldson or James Peoples to say that Bo Jackson might be different. Because the response, the reaction that the Ohio State team gives to Bo Jackson tells us that something is different. The way that they've talked about him since February, we knew something was different. That run, that 64-yard run, again, cut the tape and watch it. The vision, the explosion, the ability to get small and get through the hole, there's a lot of things there that you can't teach. And the good news is right now you have 3 running backs you can trust, but it seems like Bo Jackson is on his way to like passing the other 2.
Yeah, that's how that run felt to me, and maybe that's prisoner of the moment, hyperbole, whatever, recency bias. I thought that was the carry where I was like, okay,
yeah,
he's a star. I wrote in the notebook and talked about it on the notebook as well. So
it'd be a lot easier to be like, holy moly, if he didn't get tracked down. But hey,
he's a freshman, man.
He's a freshman, and not everyone is Travion Henderson fast.
That's true.
So, but Bo Jackson's plenty fast. Before we wrap up Snap Judgments, anything else that stood out on this night? There's going to be a whole lot of time for dissecting the personnel issues or the personnel discussions. You'll have that with Zach Boren on the Monday morning Boren Blitz.
Yep.
But what else? Anything else that caught your attention?
Yeah. Every week I feel like I have to. I'm obligated to say this. Carnell Tate is so good. Like, Jeremiah Smith is an alien. I get it. And his numbers, wound up being, Jeremiah, by the way, set a record. He is the fastest in Ohio State history to 1,500 receiving yards. This is a separate conversation. If Carnell Tate was on any other team in the country, he would win the Biletnikoff. He would have 13 targets a game.
Now you know why Oregon offered him so much money.
Well, I think that there's
Did I say that aloud?
There's a very clear upside. There's a reason. It's Carnell Tate's talent and Oregon's perhaps deficiency at wide receiver, perhaps where all the money was coming from. But anyway, Carnell Tate is awesome. The catches that he makes are just, I don't think he gets enough credit. So I think that's what I wanted to mention. Congratulations to Max Clare, by the way. Halfway to my bold prediction of 2 touchdowns tonight. He gets his first one. We were hoping to grab him for the first time on the Austin Birm Show for the notebook. He
got out of here quick.
Got out, and that's fine. Off week, go enjoy it if you're Ohio State. Get back to the practice field. As you said, we're going to be talking about all of that on the beat Monday through Friday, kind of wrapping up non-conference, the slate.
The pre-con, non-con.
The pre-con, non-con is complete, and now Ohio State can turn its attention to Washington in 2 weeks on the road in Seattle. But as you mentioned, we'll get to all of that moving forward. This is just the first nitpicking snap judgments of the year. Maybe there'll be another one.
I hope not. But, again, if you nitpick and you win by 28 points against a really good team on a night when you know that you left 20-some points on the board, it's all about perspective, I guess. Like, it's you don't want to leave that on the board, but you know what you're capable of. And I fully expect Ohio State and Ryan Day and the rest of the Ohio State coaches will not have wasted moments in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, I don't think they will. I think they'll have the attention of Ohio State as well after they win 37-9, but maybe not quite in the fashion that the Buckeyes would have anticipated against the Bobcats. Either way, they're 3-0. They're the number 1 team in the country, and now they are moving on to Big Ten play. We're moving on to Improvement Week as well. Thanks for joining us on 10 TV Plus 97.1, the Fans YouTube channel, Apple, Spotify, anywhere you get podcasts. We appreciate everyone for watching, listening, subscribing, liking, and we'll see you again on Monday with Zach Boren. He's Jeremy Birmingham. I am Austin Ward. These have been Snappy Jays. We'll see you next week.